Casting me adrift 3,500 miles from a port of call. You're sending me to my doom, eh? Well, you're wrong, Christian. I'll take this boat as she floats to England if I must. I'll live to see you, all of you, hanging from the highest yard arm in the British fleet.
Ciccolini, you're charged with high treason, and if found guilty, you'll be shot.
I object.
Oh, you object. On what grounds?
I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Objection sustained.
Your Excellency, you sustained the objection.
Sure, I couldn't think of anything else to say either. Why don't you object?
Ciccolini, when were you born?
I don't remember. I was just a little baby.
Isn't it true you tried to sell Fredonia's secret war code and plans?
True, I sold the code in 2 pair of plans. It's some joke, eh, boss?
Everything they did was funny. I mean, when they did jokes, it was amusing. When Harpo did silent comedy, it was amusing.
Fargo is the last great picture I saw. I adore that film. I've seen it 4 times, could see it every week.
We run a pretty tight ship here.
I know, but, well, how do they establish that, sir? I mean, are the cars counted daily, or what kind of a routine here?
Ma'am, I answered your question.
I'm sorry, sir?
Ma'am, I answered your question. I answered the darn... I'm cooperating here. And there's no...
What I love about Fargo is they include a scene and have the confidence that they've built such an interesting character, the Frances McDormand character, that basically anything she encounters will be interested in following.
Okay. I want you to tell me what these fellas look like.
Well, the little guy, he was kind of funny looking.
In what way?
I don't know, just funny looking.
Can you be any more specific?
I couldn't really say. He wasn't circumcised.
Was he funny looking apart from that?
It was almost like a documentary that someone had gone to this strange place and brought back a record of a life that's, you know, within our borders that I knew nothing about.
Hey, they said they were going to the Twin Cities.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, is that useful to you?
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Yeah.
They took an American setting with American characters and made you seem as though you were watching a foreign film.
The movie was constructed as a morality play. There is a point at which your morality must operate if you're going to maintain what I believe the last vestiges of your humanity in an almost impossible situation.
We're going to lose this war.
Come on. You really think so? Us?
We've been kicking other people's asses for so long, I figure it's time we got ours kicked.
I loved the Sculpin Giant. I loved that Victorian house in the middle of this desolate, dusty plain. I remember James Dean in that oil well with, you know, just that oil gushing out.
I think Giant is surely one of George Stevens' best films, if not his best.
It's here. And there ain't a dang thing you're gonna do about it. My well came in big, so big, and there's more down there, and there's bigger wells. I'm rich, bitch. I'm a rich one. I'm a rich boy. Me, I'm gonna have more money than you ever thought you could have.
Say A. You ain't got no what, you ain't A.
Damn it, I don't want these men to love me. I want them to fight for me.
Lord have mercy, is that what that is?
Did you see them crowd at the flogging? I'll teach them what flogging's like.
I can see you right now in the kitchen, bending over a hot stove. But I can't see the stove.
You should see the other guy.
I figured why should just the poor kids go off to war and the rich kids always get away with it?
You knew what a frightful girl I was when you married me.
A legendary comic genius has 3 movies in the next act of America's greatest movies.
There are so many unforgettable movie images we have cherished and relived over the years. They've become as familiar and special to us as pages in our own family album. Sometimes a scene in a movie becomes part of our lives, and as time goes by, those images remain to remind us of how deeply affected we were by them and continue to be.
I think the mechanical eating scene in modern times is one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen on film.
The corn and the food going around and around and having to eat faster and faster. Machinery and the industrial age was just overtaking our lives much faster pace than we normally would be living.
I'm not nuts on slow motion myself. However, everybody and their brothers started copying that after a while. Peckinpah came along and he had this wonderful cast of characters.
Let's go!
These were a bunch of bad guys, low-life, outcasts, no good, and yet he made no compromises with them for the audience. And so you had to latch on to whatever humanity you could find in them.
What do you want?
The movie, I think, brought film violence up to another level.
What do you want, Angel?
For years, guys got shot and there was no blood.
The violence was stomach-turning, but then you got past that point and it became something else. It became kind of an abstraction of what we really are capable of as people, and also what we were doing at that time in the world, too, which is Vietnam.
When Christopher Walken was in that scene when he was playing Russian roulette, the sheer point that that man must have got to that it didn't really matter if he went on or not. So he might as well play the game. I find that a very, very punishing piece, and yet I watched it very much. I've seen the film many times.
Rocky, early on in his life, really had no forethought, and he had no dreams and no aspirations.
Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
To living. And his love for Adrian now ignites a kind of submersed passion to be somebody.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Why do you want to fight?
Because I can't sing or dance. Yo.
The experience of seeing Rocky in a theater is almost religious. You know, to see what happens to audiences of different age groups, men and women, black and white. I don't ever remember having seen anything quite like that, where the audience gets up and cheers. They're on their feet in the theater.
When I shot American Graffiti, there was one overriding irony. Everyone on that film
bar none except for moi, believed that this film was a classic.
What did you say? Wait, what did you say? What did you say? Quick, hang a right.
What? Why?
Steven, cut over to G Street. I just saw a vision.
My favorite of his films is, of course, City Lights, because I thought it said more about love than so many pictures that prattle on about love.
I wouldn't mess with a dog, much less a wolf. When Kevin Costner reads all the characters, he wants to play them all, because he relates to them all, which doesn't mean that he's going to be greedy and hog up all the energy, but it means that he appreciates what the other actor is going to be doing. It's, you know.
Tatanka. Tatanka. Here. Tatanka. 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 Buffalo.
In Gold Rush, one of the great moments, which I think affected my physical comedy later, was Chaplin facing off with this big guy in the bar who wants the same girl he does, and Chaplin's like leaning against the door frame, protecting her. And the guy goes like that, and Chaplin just disappears through the door frame, just in an instant. And then he's back again.
Heathcliff, make the world stop right here. Make everything stop and stand still and never move again. Make the Moors never change, and you and I never change.
The Moors and I will never change.
It's a visceral impact that the early movies have. Watching Olivier standing, listening to the speech that Merle Oberon is delivering about how she's going to marry somebody else, and the expression changing on his face and feeling what must be going on inside of him.
Oh, Heathcliff. He gets worse every day. It would degrade me to marry him. I wish he hadn't come back.
The interesting thing about Judah Ben-Hur is that he is not a hero, but he is a survivor. Driving a chariot was kind of fun, especially since the race was fixed.
Right before Forrest Gump was made, I interviewed Tom Hanks, and he told me he was going to make Forrest Gump. He says, yeah, it's a way out movie, but let me tell you, if it works the way the script reads, we're going to have a classic hit. I never heard an actor predict that before.
Life is a box of chocolates, Forrest. You never know what you're going to get.
Mama always had a way of explaining things so I could understand them.
I will miss you, Forrest.
She had got the cancer and died on a Tuesday.
When Gary Sinise came on the screen, I was so shocked I thought he had lost his legs. And I turned to Mel and I said, Mel, did he lose his legs? And Mel said, I don't know. And I felt so sorry for that poor man.
He never actually said so, but I think he made his peace with God.
What would you do in his place? He gave his word. Gave his word to a railroad.
This is this. This ain't something else. This is this. Rock and roll's been going downhill ever since Buddy Holly died.
I've always wanted to see the frontier. I didn't want to see the frontier.
All you have to do is to shoot.
Well, thank me, boy.
Shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes.
Coming up in the next segment, the film that made John Wayne a star.
The chase scene in The French Connection came about really through inspiration.
Police emergency, I need your car.
You couldn't just do a good story out there. You had to have a little something extra. If not a big star, a big scene, preferably a chase. I was in New York City, where they have subways and elevated trains. What if a car was chasing a train? I was able to use that chase to illustrate the blind obsession of this cop, even so far as putting the general public in danger.
Testing the limits. Those who indeed push that envelope, tap our emotions for adventure, success, and joy, earn our admiration, and create that special something which brands a movie as being truly unique and trend-setting. Their ideals become our ideals. Their thoughts become the standards of our thinking and language. Their style of dress and movement are seen on the streets of our nation. And their moments of triumph and defeat become our successes and our failures. They can show us that society is not black and white, but truly more gray, complex, and ultimately satisfying when one takes a risk.
Little boy was our eyes as the audience.
Gosh almighty, that is good!
Alan Ladd, who was a very small man in stature, but he seemed much, much larger than life in this particular film.
Jack Palance invented the way to get off a horse if you're heavy. He was petrified of horses. He was from New York. So he got off so slow because he didn't want the horse to be nervous. It's all right. Easy, baby. He wasn't menacing. He was scared to death.
You know, when I was a kid, all the other kids wanted to be John Wayne, you know. I wanted to be Gene Kelly.
I loved An American in Paris. There is so much romance and soaring of the human spirit. Paris in its most romantic light. The dance at the fountain, I think, is very sexy, too.
Allow me to introduce our American visitors. I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I have conditioned them, or brainwashed them, which I understand is the new American word.
I don't know squat from espionage or intrigue or assassination or any of that, but I know a little bit about hypnotism from watching Ed Sullivan.
52 Red Queens and me are telling you, you know what we're telling you? It's over. The links, the beautifully conditioned links are smashed. They're smashed as of now because we say so. Because we say they ought to be smashed. We're busting up the joint. We're tearing out all the wires. We're busting it up so good, all the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men will never put old Raymond back together again.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
You know, people always used to say to us what a brilliant satire network was, and we'd say, what do you mean satire? It's sheer reportage.
I am not putting Howard back on the air.
It's not your show anymore, Max. It's mine.
I gave her the show, Schumacher. I'm putting the network news show under programming.
And it had an effect on me in that I was watching an industry I knew and was nodding my head.
You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
I met Anthony Hopkins, and I complimented him how brilliant his performance was in Silence of the Lambs, because when an actor really does
his job wonderfully. To me, it's like, it's a painting.
That is the Duomo scene from the Belvedere.
You know, Florence?
All that detail just from memory, sir?
Memory, Agent Starling, is what I have instead of a view.
He says, it just came out of me. There was no finding the character for him. It was just, you know, fava beans.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Jodie was at her best. I mean, you believed every single moment of her presence on film.
I took one lamb and I ran away as fast as I could.
Where were you going, Clarice?
I don't know. I didn't have any food, any water, and it was very cold. It was very cold. I thought if I could save just one, but he was so heavy. He was so heavy.
The killer scene in Close Encounters for me is when Richard is so overwhelmed with this image that he begins to sculpt it in the mashed potatoes. That obsession is one that I know we all have had, trying to figure out the piece of the puzzle.
I was a loner, and I made movies as a reaction to being alone and finding a way to do something that could bring friends into my life.
Whoa, steady, ho.
I really admire Stagecoach because, for one thing, it was John Ford's first foray into Monument Valley, and to put little figures in a grand landscape.
Stagecoach talks about the need for bonding.
Man could live there. And a woman. There you go.
But you don't know me. You don't know who I am.
I know all I want to know.
How many comedies are in the 100? How many comedies are in your 100?
What about this thing?
No, I don't have the right shoes for it. I hate the way the horizontal lines make me look too hippie, and it cuts me across the bust.
I think we're getting into a weird area here.
I knew that the idea of Dustin in a dress would just be irresistible on the screen. I knew he wouldn't be a pretty woman, and I knew that because of that, we would be able to examine certain aspects of femininity.
If I was going to be a woman, I would want to be as beautiful as possible. And they said to me, that's as beautiful as we can get you, Charlie.
I'd like to make her look a little more attractive. How far can you pull back?
How do you feel about Cleveland?
Knock it off.
And I went home and started crying, talking to my wife. And I said, I have to make this picture. And she said, why? And I said, because I think I'm an interesting woman when I look at myself on screen. And I know that if I met myself at a party, I would never talk to that character because she doesn't fulfill physically the demands that we're brought up to think women have to have in order for us to ask them out. She says, what are you saying? And I said, there's too many interesting women I have not had the experience to know in this life because I have been brainwashed. And that was never a comedy for me.
I'm an actress. I'm a character actress. I can play this part any way you want.
Honey, I'm sure that you're a very, very good actress. It's just that you're a little bit too soft and genteel. You're not threatening enough.
Not threatening enough? How's this? You take your hands off me, or I'm going to knee your balls right through the roof of your mouth. Is that enough of a threat?
It was not what it felt like to be a woman. It was what it felt like to be someone that people didn't respect for the wrong reasons. I know it's a comedy, but comedy's a serious business.
Now, I'm going to bust your ass for those 3 bags, and I'm going to nail you for picking your feet in Poughkeepsie.
I've heard that you're a low-down Yankee liar.
There is no happier man in Paris than Monsieur Mulligan.
I wanted a killer from a world filled with killers, and they chose you.
I made a tell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Oh, Clarice, your problem is you need to get more fun out of life.
You may need me in this Winchester, Curly.
Stop thinking of me as a woman, Medford, and start thinking of me as a person.
Next, a Musical Legends award-winning dramatic performance on America's greatest movies.
Whether fanning the flames of our deepest desires or dredging up the darkness of our most loathsome fears, movies move us. And through it all, we hear music. For much of the sound and fury of movies is music. And if you listen carefully, the music alone will tell you what's about to happen.
Jimmy Stewart said to me once, he said, you know, movies are really moments. He said, people come up to me and say, you know, I don't remember who was in that movie with you, but there was that shot where you turned and looked at the girl. He said, I've never forgotten that. And that's true. There are moments like that that only film can create.
Harrison Ford does it for me. Basically, anytime you can make someone with the strength that he possesses, with the softness that he also has, I think that's very interesting in a man.
What'd you say?
Harrison Ford is petrified of snakes. I've worked with snakes. When they tell you they've been milked, we milked them. Really? Oh, okay, then let him have a couple of bites here.
I think The Raiders has a lot of homage to certainly Lawrence of Arabia.
You're tearing me apart!
When I saw James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, I was aware of the fact that here, though he was a very good-looking guy, he seemed to have the same pain inside of him that I had as an adolescent.
I think that you can't just go around proving things and pretending like you're tough.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't, even though you look a certain way, you can't.
That's right. You're absolutely. You're absolutely right.
You're not listening to me.
It wasn't until he found romance and love and a character as screwed up as he was in Natalie Wood, they somehow had a certain kind of ethic and morality.
I love somebody. All the time I've been looking for someone to love me, and now I love somebody.
I remember one of the scenes in Fantasia where the seeds of a dandelion had been dispersed, and they turned into little fairies, and they started spinning around and dancing, and it was an image that stuck with me because it was so happy. When I was trying to decide what my wedding dress was going to look like, I wanted it to look like the dresses that the little fairies had on. Fantasia, even to this day, has a place in my life.
Ja, zie mij niet, soms niet zo blöd. En de frechheid is toch mitten in de nacht.
With Carol Reed directing that film, you really get a sense of theatricality.
Harry.
Orson Welles himself plays a despicable character. Yeah, and yet you like him. There's an attraction about him.
Well, what the fella said. In Italy, for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed, but they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace, and what did that produce? The cuckoo clock.
It was bold.
God meant us to find each other.
His will be done.
It was very up to date. People were smoking pot. There was nudity. 4-letter word here and there.
Damn army. Well, both Trapper and Hawkeye were perfectly cast because if you know Donald Sutherland and you know Elliot Gould,
I'm Dr. Jekyll, actually. This is my friend, Mr. Hyde.
I love the screenplay by Ringlarder Jr.
I think you will find these accommodating. They're quite dry.
It formed, obviously, the template for the series.
Don't you use olives?
Olives? Where the hell do you think you are, man?
We do have to make certain concessions to the war. We're 3 miles from the front line, and...
Yes, but a man can't really savor his martini without an olive, you know? Otherwise, you see, it just doesn't quite make it.
Movies are supposed to be big, because if they're not big, they're television.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
I saw that growing up, and it was about kids. It was something that I could relate to, about a family, very much not like my own, but I could experience what that life would be like.
Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog barks.
All Quiet on the Western Front gave me a new perspective, because it was the war through the Germans' eyes.
Dirty and painful to die for your country. When it comes to dying for your country, it's better not to die at all.
I still see the images from that movie quite clearly. I'll never forget Lou Ayres coming up out of the trench. That picture was a picture of the horrors of war.
I thought Amadeus was absolutely wonderful, as I've thought many of Milos Forman's pictures are absolutely wonderful. The story is so enormously powerful about Salieri being envious of the gifts of Mozart, and anger and fury he feels because he knows that he doesn't have that enormous talent that Mozart had.
The rest is just the same, isn't it? It doesn't really work, does it?
They say, you know, the talent for melody comes from God.
Here they come, boys!
From Here to Eternity was one of the great, great movies of our time. Burt Lancaster, Montgomery Clift.
Of course, if you were smart...
Yeah, but I ain't smart.
I know. But if you were, you wouldn't have to pull KP. Or any other fatigue duty, for that matter.
If you think you can bribe me into boxing, Warden, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Frank Sinatra.
Faso Donacu. He likes to whack me in the gut. He asks me if it hurts. And I spit at him like always. Only yesterday, it was bad.
I think that scene on the beach between Deborah Carr and Burt Lancaster, to this day, even with all the movies that have come since, remains one of the really, truly sexiest scenes there is.
To have Jimmy Stewart, Katharine Hepburn, and Cary Grant all together in one movie is amazing, and you felt like they really brought out the best in one another.
Hello, Dexter. Hello, George. Hello, Mike.
Cary Grant was an extraordinary performer and a great star, of course, and I envied the way he made his living. He got to stand around in beautiful suits, in beautiful apartments, saying beautiful things to beautiful women.
Dexter, are you sure?
Not the least blow of whiskey, will you?
You bet. You didn't do it just to soften the blow.
Okay, Casey.
Not to save my face.
Oh, it's a nice little face.
Oh, Dexter, I'll be yours now. I'll promise to be
Be
yours.
whatever you like. You're my redhead. Are you all set?
All set.
Just dinner.
Because I remind you of her?
Because I'd like to have dinner with you.
Trust me.
But I am involved. We are all involved. My congratulations, sir.
Congratulations to you, Mickey.
There's no proof against me. Besides you.
Captain Pierce, did you call me?
No, I didn't, and my name's Hawkeye.
I can't seem to stop singing wherever I am. And what's worse, I can't seem to stop saying things.
Our country calls. The fatherland needs leaders.
I thought you did not care for my work. Or me.
Mess with me, fat stuff, and I'll bust you up.
You must be in a hurry for trouble.
Snob. What do you mean, snob?
The next act features movies based on a notable play and a landmark Broadway musical.
The early movies have taught us that the men in the white hats are the good guys. But not always. There are times when bad guys become our heroes and good guys become our villains. And ironically, at times, we find ourselves rooting for the outlaw.
Better get ready.
Kid, the next time I say let's go someplace like Bolivia, let's go someplace like Bolivia.
Next time.
All I was trying to do was tell this story about these two guys who went to South America and got killed. And keep it as interesting as I could.
I'll jump first.
No. Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim!
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Westerns are based on confrontation. And Butch's whole life, from everything we know about him, was avoiding confrontation.
No, not yet. Not until me and Harvey get the rules straightened out.
Rules? In a knife fight? No rules. What?
Well, if there ain't gonna be any rules, let's get the fight started. Someone count 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go.
Hi-ho, it's home from earth we go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho.
The first film that I ever saw was Snow White, which my parents got from Walt Disney, Uncle Walt, for my 5th birthday.
Why, you're little men.
I think it was one of the few characters that the good girl was the one with the black hair.
Don't let the wish grow cold. Oh, I feel strange.
Snow White is still one of my favorite films, and I'm man enough to admit it.
I did not intend Jaws to be a movie where you had to wait an hour to see the shark. Only because the shark didn't work did you have to wait the hour to see the darn thing.
We, the audience, first see the shark, but Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss don't.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The scene in Jaws where we sat around the table and sang that song, all of the characters threw away whatever baggage they had and were human with one another.
Show me the way to go home, home, home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little drink about an hour ago and I got it right to my head.
It's the only moment, actually, where we're together. At every other moment, we are at odds with each other.
That's certifiable, but I'll tell you this.
Oh, boys. I think he's come back for his noon feeding.
You talking to me? Talking to me?
Taxi Driver is the best film ever made about urban paranoia.
Girls should live at home.
Didn't you ever hear of women's lib?
What do you mean, women's lib? You're a young girl. You should be at home now. You should be dressed up. You should be going out with boys. You should be going to school. You know, that kind of stuff.
God, are you square?
It made you feel the isolation of one person in this crowded city. He's sitting in that chair and he's got the TV perched and it's rocking, rocking, rocking. By the time he actually tilts the TV so far that it falls,
I love him.
you know his fuse has been lit. Okay, and the movie's about to go to another place.
Thank you.
All of Kubrick's work has an amazing balance. In Clockwork Orange, I mean, it's terrifying, but kind of lyrical and funny at the same time.
Stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Go! I'm with the rain. I've a smile on my face.
It's really about the freedom of choice, the freedom of the individual to choose what he wants to do, either he wants to be bad or good.
I see that it's wrong. It's wrong because it's like against society. It's wrong because everybody has the right to live and be happy without being told, chopped and knifed.
No, no, boy. You really must leave it to us.
Hey, Stella!
Tennessee Williams later said that Brando, no matter how he tried to fulfill the demands of the character, was always so sympathetic. He couldn't out-slob himself to the point where we didn't love him and women didn't want to have an affair with him.
Be comfortable. That's my motto where I come from.
It's mine, too. It's hard to stay looking fresh and hot weather while I haven't washed or even powdered. Here you are.
Tennessee Williams had an enormous gift at portraying the South and making it just dramatic enough. I mean, it's not the South the way I know it, certainly.
You come in here and you sprinkle a place with powder and you spray perfume and you stick a paper lantern over the light bulb and lo and behold, the place is turned to Egypt and you are the queen of the Nile sitting on your throne swilling down my liquor. And you know what I say? Ha ha!
I'm pretty old, but I never made films for Griffith. He was, of course, one of the pioneers who invented the movies.
During its time, it probably incited people in a very real kind of way, as art should do. It should stimulate people to action in certain instances. It should stimulate conversation.
I actually own the land under the Empire State Building. I may be the only person alive who went to see King Kong in order to watch the building, rather than King Kong himself.
Jeff, if you could only see yourself.
What's the matter?
Sitting around looking out of the window to kill time is one thing, but doing it the way you are with binoculars and wild opinions about every little thing you see is disease.
What, do you think I'd consider it recreation? My favorite Hitchcock picture, which I think is a quintessential Hitchcock film, is Rear Window. He was very voyeuristic with his camera. Rear Window was the culmination of this desire to finally not be ashamed of it and just to come flat out and acknowledge it and embrace it and make, I think, the most entertaining movie of his career.
What an ingenious plot device to have Jimmy Stewart not only in a confined apartment but with a broken leg, and the whole film in such a confined claustrophobic space that really never breaks out of that apartment except when you see her.
Finally, the outside world that he'd been looking at started looking back at him.
When you do a musical and the music plays, we're liberated to be way beyond reality.
The dancing was in your face, and it was also something new. People weren't used to seeing it.
Life can be bright in America.
If you can fight in America.
Life is all right in America.
If you're all white in America.
I think West Side Story worked because it still had a Jerome Robbins sensibility with Robert Wise's film know-how.
It's not so dopey for people just to be cruising around and burst in a song.
Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
talking about hooking some poor dogfish or sand shark. I'm talking about finding a great white.
I'm standing here. You make the move. You make the move.
I've taught you much, my little Droogies.
Well, they told me to take a streetcar named Desire.
Why hasn't he been in his wife's bedroom all day?
Come on, bring it up, my son. Come on, bring it up.
In the next group of America's greatest movies, President Clinton reminisces about his favorite film.
The address is CBS. Welcome home.
The names on these director's chairs say it all. The people who sat in these, they said a lot more than action and cut. Directors are the ultimate decision makers of what you and I see on the screen. They use their understanding of lighting, composition, sound, and special effects to tell a story. And in between takes, they supervise the crew, rehearse the cast, keep to a schedule, and hopefully stay on budget. With all this responsibility, they must never lose sight of their singular vision of the final film. More often than not, this involves keeping us actors motivated.
I really found with Alfred Hitchcock's movies that he must have had a laugh on all of us every time he set out to make a picture.
Seems to me you fellows could stand a little less training from the FBI, a little more from the actor's studio.
Apparently, the only performance that'll satisfy you is when I play dead.
Your very next role, you'll be quite convincing, I assure you.
Alfred Hitchcock said, "I've always wanted to do a chase across the faces of Mount Rushmore." I said, "That's great." Now, many a month went by, my trying to figure out why we go to Mount Rushmore.
He was cheeky. He had a twinkle in his eye about his stories and his plots.
What happened to the first two marriages?
Oh, my wives divorced me.
Why?
Oh, I think they said I led too dull a life.
It's a crime, really, to see a David Lean film on even a big, small screen. These incredible landscapes that he would show you, and always a train and this vast landscape. Dr. Zhivago, you can't imagine without the music.
When Omar Sharif is showing Julie Christie, you know, the snow. You were like a little kid in that shot. You know, there was Omar, and there was Julie, and there was you.
Ho, ho, ho! I love the snow!
You watch this movie, this sweeping epic. At the end, it just kills you.
You said it wasn't suicide. Check. You said it was murder. Check.
It's got a great story. It just crackles with wit in the dialogue.
Suppose I let you off with a warning this time.
Suppose it doesn't take.
Suppose I have to whack you over the knuckles.
Suppose I bust out crying and put my head on your shoulder.
Suppose you try putting it on my husband's shoulder.
That tears it.
Barbara Stanwyck never better. Fred McMurray, underrated, great actor. Getting performance. Edward G. Robinson, my favorite actor.
A guy takes out an accident policy that's worth $100,000 if he's killed on the train. Then 2 weeks later, he is killed on the train. And not in a train accident, mind you, but falling off some silly observation car. Do you know what the mathematical probability of that is? 1 out of, oh, I don't know how many billions.
Where's Mom?
William Wyler is a giant, and The Best Years of Our Lives is a giant film.
Who's that at the door, Peggy?
When Frederick March comes home and he stops his children from saying anything until he sees Myrna Loy. It's just elegant. It was the only film that I know of that really told that post-war experience.
I look terrible.
Who says so?
The movie taught us a lot about how America treats veterans. Harold Russell, a Navy veteran who loses both arms, comes back and wins Best Supporting Actor, literally playing himself.
All right, I'll show you. Take a good look.
I just do anything for her. It's only.
I'm sorry, Llewellyn. It isn't your fault. Go on and play with your friends.
Everybody's talking at me.
It's not a pretty subject. It's not something we want to look at. Schlesinger makes you look at it.
Hey! I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
I was awfully naive when I moved to New York. I came here, I sounded like Ellie Mae Clampett on a rampage, so certainly there was a lot of aspects to life and culture, especially the sort of underbelly of life that were shocking and made no sense to me.
Go, go, go. My God, I was exhausted. It was beautiful, Maura, but oh, God, stop. I died from that. Oh, what? Huh? Who are you talking to? No, I was just talking to Baby.
I don't remember being taken into the street on that kind of visceral level.
We ain't gonna have to steal no more, is what I'm trying to tell you. I got $8 in my damn pockets. 20 more come Thursday, boy. We're gonna be riding these before very long, I'm gonna tell you.
Give me some soup.
We were shooting this emotional part of the scene for me, and I was really tired. And when you get tired, sometimes you just dry up emotionally, and I couldn't get it. And I'm supposed to be holding the can, and I remember thought of being so sick that I couldn't even keep my hands still.
Thanks for the stuff.
Don't mention it.
John just kept saying, thank you. Thank you for helping me get in this movie. He just knew he had to say something that would kick me. And it kicked me.
I'm scared.
What are you scared of?
You know what they do to you when they know you can't. When they find out that you can't walk. Oh, Christ.
The old classic line, you're part of the problem or part of the solution. And I think Capra and his characters embody that.
There's a seat over there for you.
What's the idea?
I'd like to sit next to my wife, if you don't mind.
The scene where Clark Gable undresses in It Happened One Night is great because of Clark Gable.
No, I have a method all my own. If you'll notice, the coat came first, then the tie, then the shirt.
He's wry and provocative.
The pants should be next. There's where I'm different. I go for the shoes next.
I think of Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert in that movie. I love the way his character and her character related to each other. There was equality, but there was vive la différence, too. I mean, this woman could go out and hail a car the way she could hail a car.
Atticus, do you defend niggers?
Don't say nigger, Scout.
To Kill a Mockingbird, probably the first film to begin to confront the moral imperative of this country of race, discrimination, bigotry. Brilliantly brought to the screen by Robert Mulligan, the director.
Tom, did you rape Mayella Ewell? I did not, sir. You know, Atticus is this great lawyer. And when he walks down the aisle, all the black people stand. I'm sorry, it makes me cry. My father was a sheriff for 20 years in the South. And I don't understand that colorblind thing. I don't understand prejudice. I've never had it. I never knew it. I wasn't born with it. I wasn't taught it.
Miss Jean Louise, stand up.
Your father's passing.
small boy. To me, he was the most realistic of all heroes. He did something that he thought was right.
They're making me run. I've never run from anybody before.
Well, I don't understand any of this.
Well, I haven't got time to tell you.
Then don't go back, Will.
I've got to. That's the whole thing.
Every time they show the ticking of the clock and there's a picture of him, he doesn't have to say a word. You can look in his eyes and know that he thinks the chances are overwhelming that he's going to be killed, and he hates it. He wants to run off with Grace Kelly and have his life, and, you know, but he does it anyway.
Don't try to be a hero. You don't have to be a hero, not for me.
I'm not trying to be a hero. If you think I like this, you're crazy.
To me, he was the most realistic of all heroes. He did something that he thought was right. So to me, that's real heroism. I mean, you know, he's a full, rich, interesting person who just does the right thing.
I'm furious at Francis Coppola, because whenever I go down my list of the 5 greatest American movies, he's got 2 of them.
I think that the greatest single moment of screenwriting I've ever seen is in Godfather 2. De Niro is running from rooftop to rooftop, about to become a murderer. It's one of the existential moments. His life will be changed forever. And the moment that he's changed his life forever to take care of his son, he's destroyed his son.
Senator, we're both part of the same hypocrisy. But never think it applies to my family.
That is a movie about a family. Familia.
It was an abortion, Michael. It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end.
La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la, yeah.
I saw Annie Hall, which is, I guess, 1977. The whole sequence where Woody Allen goes back to, to visit Annie's family. I've had that feeling many times with many girlfriends.
Got some nice picture frames.
We really had a good time.
And Annie Hall, I decided that I would relax a little bit and try and get the audience interested in the story so I didn't have to have a relentless parade of jokes.
Well, the universe is everything, and if it's expanding, someday it will break apart, and that will be the end of everything.
What is that your business? He stopped doing his homework.
What's the point?
All of his movies are so great, they're so interesting, whether they're really depressing or screwball comedies.
Get out of here with that thing! Jesus. Get it! Talk to him, you speak shellfish.
It's not about jokes. It's about human frailties and foibles.
I've been moody and dissatisfied.
How often do you sleep together?
Do you have sex often?
Hardly ever, maybe 3 times a week.
Constantly. I'd say 3 times a week.
John Huston made one of my favorite pictures of all time, Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Just take a fellow American to a meal.
How men interact with one another has never been better shown.
And each of us will have to hide his share of the treasure from the other 2. And having done so, he'll have to be forever on the watch that his hiding place is not discovered.
What a dirty, filthy mind you got.
Oh, no, not dirty, baby. Only I know what kind of ideas even supposedly decent people get when gold's at stake.
Bogart's performance in that, forget about it. I mean, it's beyond Oscars.
I'm going to finish this right now. No more taking orders from you like I had to do today, get me?
You mean you're going to murder me?
No, brother, not murder, no. Your mistake. I'm doing this to save my life, that you'd be taken from me the minute I wasn't looking at you.
But Treasure of the Sierra Madre is probably the definitive film about greed and human nature.
The gold has gone back to where we found it.
Not that I mind a slight case of abduction now and then, but I have tickets for the theater this evening.
I'm not going with you.
I'm not going without you.
I wonder if I know what you mean.
I wonder if you wonder. I'm not an officer and a gentleman anymore. I'm just another soda jerk out of a job.
I'm Joe Buck from Texas.
Enrico Rizzo from the Bronx.
Ever hear the word humility? No, you wouldn't.
I go to school with your boy. I go to school with Walter.
We all know what Miller's like. That's why I'm here.
We're bigger than U.S. Steel.
That's okay. We can walk to the curb from here. It's fine.
I don't have to show you any stinking bushes.
The American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movies, brought to you by The Gang is Back and Better Than Ever in Warner Brothers' new motion picture, Lethal Weapon 4, and U.S. Satellite Broadcasting. You've never seen movies like this.
Great films stand the test of time. They're as fresh today as they were when they first appeared. These next 4 movies capture this timeless American spirit, celebrating independence in a chaotic world that searches for peace and harmony.
Liberty is too precious a thing to be buried in books, Miss Saunders. Men should hold it up in front of them every single day of their lives and say, I'm free to think and to speak.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington, took people into the Senate chamber. They got to see how the Senate works.
Here you are, Senator. Not a bad desk either. Daniel Webster used to use it.
It was good triumphing over evil, and it was a known evil, a recognizable evil, and a known and recognizable good. It was us. It was there was no great leap to be made. This was me standing up in the Senate and saving the world.
You think I'm licked? You all think I'm licked. Well, I'm not licked. And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
Even the very best filmmaker and even the very best actors can only capture a small glimpse of something like the Vietnam War, what it was like, what it was really like.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
As opposed to what others may think it was like.
It smells like victory.
Vietnam was such a green jungle hell that it's impossible to, to separate very strong feelings from deep inside one's heart for anybody who witnessed it.
You got us in this mess, and now you can't get us out because you don't know where the hell you're going, do you? Do ya?
Clyde Barron.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Parker. Pleased to meet you.
Bonnie and Clyde showed gangsters and criminals as the heroes.
What are you talking about? I spent a year in reformatory.
A man with a record.
I know you got the nerve to shortchange old ladies who are coming in for gas. What I'm asking you is, have you got what it takes to pull bank jobs with us?
Mr. C.W. Moss.
Watching Bonnie and Clyde I think it was one of the first movies that I had ever experienced violence, romanticized violence. And yet, by the time this movie got to the final scene, I had already gotten to know these people. I knew their motives. I understood where they came from, why they were where they were, independent of their actions. And then to see their lives be ended in such a violent fashion, it felt fitting. But I was sad.
Now then, Dimitri, you know how we've always talked about the possibility of something going wrong with the bomb.
When I saw Dr. Strangelove, it cut pretty close to the skin. What that film did was made you aware of what might be.
Mr. President, I'm not saying we wouldn't get our hair mussed, but I do say no more than 10 to 20 million killed, tops.
Peter Sellers just like put out so much out there, and you know, the idea of a guy playing these multiple roles.
Mr. President, I would not rule out the chance to preserve a nucleus of human specimens. It would be quite easy. At the bottom of some of our deeper mine shafts.
My favorite part of Dr. Strangelove happens to be Slim Pickens, you know, riding that bomb out of that thing. You know, I always imagine that. Yeehaw!
Great principles don't get lost once they come to light. They're right here.
Who's the commanding officer here?
Ain't you?
And this here's Mr. Clyde Barrow. We rob banks.
I'm just calling up to tell you something terrible has happened.
3 decades ago, this country officially recognized the importance of the motion picture as an art form by creating the American Film Institute. As the proud guardian of our nation's film heritage, the AFI is indebted to all of the writers, directors, musicians, actors, studios, and music companies who cooperated to make this event possible. Thanks to them, AFI will be able to continue the crusade it began 30 years ago.
We will create an American Film Institute, bringing together leading artists of the film industry.
The American Film Institute is a national organization devoted to advancing and preserving the art of the moving image. One of the central missions is to train the next generation of storytellers, the filmmakers of tomorrow. The AFI mandate in preservation includes the AFI collection at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and houses the oldest surviving feature film ever made in the United States. Orson Welles said it best. When he received the AFI Life Achievement Award, he said, "To our crazy
and beloved profession, to the movies, to good movies, to every possible kind."
Next, we begin the final countdown with the top 25 of America's greatest movies.
He's looking at you, kid.
What is a hero? Over the last 100 years, that question has been answered by the movies. Look for all of MGM's greatest heroes in the video department at Target.
Thus far, we've traveled from silence to the spoken word, from Fredonia to Fargo, from the confines of a small apartment to the vastness of outer space. And now, we've come to the 25 greatest American movies ever made. As we head home, the tension builds.
E.T. is just so glorious. It's that connection with the spirit that we all make, or that we all should make, and it's so easy to make it in E.T. You just fall in love with that character. Ouch. And it's so completely compelling, and it just works. It works.
To me, it was like universes were connecting. I realized that there must be something greater going on. That's what I felt. Whether it's true or not, I felt like we're really not alone here.
E.T.
Steven Spielberg does what a director's supposed to do. He tells a story and moves it along. He is a terrific storyteller.
E.T. phone home.
Does this mean they're coming?
I have always
envied filmmakers like Scorsese, who make quintessential Scorsese pictures.
LaMotta drives both hands to the head. Hurts Robinson again. Hooks the left hand of the jaw right to the body. Robinson comes back with a right on the nose. LaMotta drives him across the ring. A left and a right to the head. A hard left hand to the body. And Robinson is driven out of the ring for the first knockdown of his career.
One of the things that Marty did in that is to take real lower-class citizens and finding a human essence in them. That's part of all of us.
Boo-boo. You're the boo-boo kiss. Like a bella.
It's a testament to the human heart, to human courage, and to the honesty of the human spirit, which is sometimes not always angelic. Sometimes it's dirty.
They only gave him that decision because he's going in the Army next week. That's the only reason.
I knocked them down. I don't know what else I gotta do. I don't know what I gotta do.
You won and they robbed you.
When you see one of his movies, you know that this was his greatest passion. Each one, from one to the next, that this was the story that he wanted everyone to know, just like this.
I'm tired of worrying about weight all the time. That's all I used to think about was weight. After a while, you know, you realize other things in life.
Who killed Thursby? Your enemies or his?
I don't know. His, I suppose. I'm afraid. I don't know.
What you have in Maltese Falcon is the key thing you got in the noir film. You have a man who goes on a search, and you go through this quest. You go through sort of a minefield of places that come in and out of dreams, in a way. Usually there's a woman that leads you through. And very often that woman does you in, you see.
Ah, this is hopeless. I don't know what you want done. I don't even know if you know what you want done.
You won't go to the police.
Go to them. All I gotta do is stand still and they'll be swarming all over me. All right, I'll tell them all I know, and you'll have to take your chances.
Bogart was sensational in that movie.
And as far as I can see, my best chance of clearing myself of the trouble you're trying to make for me is by bringing in the murderers all tied up. And the only chance I've got of catching them and tying them up and bringing them in is by staying as far away as possible from you and the police, because you'd only gum up the works. You getting this all right, son, or am I going too fast for you?
The character actors were wonderful, particularly Sidney Greenstreet.
I tell you right out, I'm a man who likes talking to a man who likes to talk.
It's a spare, hard-nosed, tough, unsentimental, wonderful story. Bogart's hard as nails in the story, and you just see when he turns that woman in.
Here's another one for you. She killed Miles. Oh, and I've got some exhibits. The boy's guns, one of Cairo's, and a $1,000 bill I was supposed to be bribed with. And this black statuette here that all the fuss was about.
He says, what is it made of? He says, what is the Maltese Falcon? It's the stuff dreams are made of.
Of course, 2001 was an advance into this extremely futuristic technique of making a movie.
My favorite villain in a movie? HAL 9000. And of course, what is the villain in HAL 9000? Is it the machine, or who made the machine, or the power that we've ceded to the machine?
The strength of all of the action that happened in 2001 was silence. It was like reading between lines.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Everybody would try to sit in the front row, and all you'd hear was, whoa, wow, far out. It was this kind of odd audience participation.
2001 makes me think about the relationship of the individual to the universe and to God. A film that says to the audience, we're not going to tell you how you should think about this or what you should think about it. Here it is, we leave it to you to come to whatever conclusions you may.
There's something going on out there in the West, and I'd like to try and learn what it is. If you feel you got the room.
My only favorite movie is Grapes of Wrath. As a farm kid, I mean, these are people that I knew. It didn't matter what ethnic they were, what color they were. These are people I knew, and every character in that story was a relative of mine.
Ain't you gonna look back, Ma? Give the old place a last look? We're going to California, ain't we? All right, then, let's go to California. But that don't sound like you, Ma. You never was like that before. I never had my house pushed over before. Never had my family stuck out in the road. Never had to lose everything I had in life.
John Ford showing how he could really make a very small, tight film about people in mid-America in the 30s, escaping the Dust Bowl and going to the dream of California and finding it is no, it's cut out to be.
Sure don't look none too prosperous.
Grapes for Us has a lot of meaning for me because it's the everyday common person, you know, speaking out and not being heard, and saying the right thing and not having anybody listening.
Fella ain't got a soul of his own, just a little piece of a big soul. The one big soul that belongs to everybody.
The meeting was adjourned and the vote was closed.
But the vote was 10-8. The chief, he's got his hand up, look.
No, Mr. McMurphy. When the meeting was adjourned, the vote was 9-9.
I was working as an attendant in the psychiatric hospital of New York when I read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I said, how does this author, Ken Kesey, know what this ward is like that I'm working in? We had a Nurse Ratched, and we had people that were, one or two people that were very much like Jack Nicholson. In fact, I was one of them, except I was an attendant.
Ah, come on, you're not gonna say that now. You're not gonna say that now. You're gonna pull that henhouse now. When the vote, the chief just voted, it was 10-9. Now, I want that television set turned on right now!
He made us aware of what we call crazy and what we call sane, and the danger of calling an individual and calling individuality something that is nuts.
What are we doing in here, Chief? Huh? What's us two guys doing in this place?
The moment I remember from Cuckoo's Nest is the moment when he realized that they were all there voluntarily. Now, that's a moment.
I'm voluntary here, see? I'm not committed. I don't have to stay here. I mean, I can go home anytime I want.
You can go home anytime you want.
That's it.
You're bull***ing me.
No.
He's bull***ing me, right?
No, Randall. He's telling you the truth.
Louise Fletcher's the nurse. Generated such hate on my part. You take hate, you double it, put it into the sands of the ocean. You hated her.
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not.
The scene where Billy does not stutter for the first time. I was so happy for him that he had that moment in time.
You know, Billy, what worries me is how your mother's going to take this.
And it was devastating when he started to stutter again, because I thought, there's no chance now.
No, don't tell my
Don't you think you should have thought of that before you took that woman in that room?
I think the best living American screenwriter is Robert Towne. I think, you know, you could go to school for 4 years and just study Chinatown.
Yeah, there's no point in getting tough with me.
I don't get tough with anyone, Mr. Geddes. My lawyer does.
I thought, why don't we just do a story about a gigantic crime, water and power. The men who commit these crimes usually end up with their names on street markers or statues erected to them as Mulholland has. Men who destroyed a way of life in California that had existed for 100 years.
How did they get a film made with this kind of content that was so unsparing, so tough-minded, so smart, and so... It just kind of grabbed you by the collar and shook you.
You know what happens to nosy fellows? Huh? No? Wanna guess? Huh? No? Okay. They lose their noses.
And John Huston in that movie really is the sort of personification of greed and evil and amorality.
You may think you know what you're dealing with, but believe me, you don't. Why is that funny?
It's what the district attorney used to tell me in Chinatown.
I try to go to the movies with other people, with like lots of people around. You know, when you go in the hood, it's very different, because people talk to the screen. I talk to the screen, you know. No, girl, don't go around that corner, but you know, oh my God, did you see what she did?
Hitchcock used the camera to paint mysteries and then to drop in clues that often put the audience ahead of the story and ahead of the characters.
I've caused you some trouble.
No, Mother, my mother, what is the phrase? She isn't quite herself today.
He once said, if you have a character in a scene and there's a bomb under their chair, it's not scary unless everyone knows there's a bomb under their chair, but them.
To this day, I have trouble taking a shower in my house without the door locked. If nobody's home, I'm not taking a shower.
Heart attack. People with the throat just was constricted because you couldn't even scream. You couldn't tell Jen, turn around, honey, turn around, turn the water. Look, there's a thing outside. Mother, oh God, Mother, blood.
La Mata! You stupid fat you!
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
California, here we go! What's the matter with you? You're screwing just like a Chinaman.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say, I love you. On that you can rely. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes.
He's looking at you, kid.
Well, The African Queen is the story of two people going down this river who really have nothing in common with each other.
You can't do that. Honest, you can't. I told you before, we can't get down the Olanga.
Spengler did.
What, in a
If
canoe,
the
miss?
German did it, we can do it, too.
Well, not in no
How do you
launch,
know?
miss.
You've never tried
Well, I
it.
never tried shooting myself in the head, neither. The trouble with you, miss, is you don't know anything about boats.
I wanted to play Humphrey Bogart's role, you know. But everyone said, are you crazy? So, okay.
Ooh, coward yourself. You ain't no lady, no, miss. That's what my poor old mother would say to you.
She's this flawless, beautiful, fabulous, refined, but edgy woman, and he's this sort of gruff kind of guy. It's so great to watch them together.
Don't be worried, Mr. O'Nut.
Oh, I ain't worried, miss. Gave myself up for dead back where we started.
Katharine Hepburn, you know, getting them both of them down the rapids, and Humphrey Bogart. Just the performance level, the level of writing.
Dear, what is your first name?
Charlie.
Charlie. That's a nice name, Charlie.
They manage to love each other and to care about each other, which I think is the most wonderful story and a great allegory for married life or any other relationship.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
I always thought that the screenplay to All About Eve was the greatest screenplay ever written.
Outside of a beehive, Margot, your behavior would hardly be considered either queenly or motherly.
You're in a beehive, pal, didn't you know? We're all busy little bees, full of stings, making honey day and night. Aren't we, honey?
However many times I hear it, I'm still surprised at the wisdom in it and the wit in it Oscar Wilde by way of Joe Mankiewicz.
You've been talking to that venomous fishwife, Addison DeWitt.
In this case, apparently as trustworthy as the World Almanac.
You knew when you came in that the audition was over, that Eve was your understudy, playing that childish little game of cat and mouse.
Not mouse, never mouse. If anything, rat.
And George Sanders also is superb in it. Superb.
Killer to killer.
Champion to champion.
Not with me, you're no champion. You're stepping way up in class.
My favorite scene is the scene where Bette Davis and Hugh Marlowe get into this fight in the theater.
When exactly does an actress decide they're her words she's saying and her thoughts she's expressing?
Usually at the point when she has to rewrite and rethink them to keep the audience from leaving the theater.
She just pushed the boundaries for everyone and played characters that had never been played in that uncompromising way before.
Eve, little Miss Evil.
And now, Your Highness, we will discuss the location of your hidden rebel base.
Star Wars has become part of American film mythology.
I remember seeing the trailers for Star Wars, and I was so psyched about seeing it. I was at the first screening in New York that morning, and it was the most incredible cinematic experience I'd had to date.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
As soon as they jumped into hyperspace, it was like I was part of that movie. It's like I was stuck to my seat. I could feel the G-forces. Okay, here we go. We're going.
I was very affected by Star Wars because of the special effects. Those swooping shots going down in the Death Star were so vivid. I was fascinated by that. I thought, you know, this is something I want to do. I thought I was going to be a special effects cinematographer.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Stand by. Stand by.
Look at that. Look how she moves. That's just like Jell-O on springs. Must have some sort of built-in motor or something.
It just doesn't get better than Some Like It Hot. And of course, it doesn't get better than Billy Wilder.
I tell you, it's a whole different sex.
Any man that can do Sunset Boulevard and Some Like It Hot, you know, from the same brain and the same heart, it just seems to me that's an extraordinary feat.
Running wild, lost control. Running wild, mighty bold. Feeling gay, reckless too. Carefree mind all the time, never blue.
And that berth on that train with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon and, you know, and the sort of steam that you could feel coming out of their ears.
If there's ever anything I can do for you,
I can think of a million things. It's just a perfect thing of its kind.
That's one of them.
Again, it's magic. There's a magic that happens that nobody notices.
Tony Curtis, when his glasses fog up, when she's... oh, God.
I think you're on the right track.
I must be. Your glasses are beginning to steam up.
It's the best closing line of any picture I've ever seen. When Joey Brown and Jack Lemmon, who is still in drag, are going in that speedboat, and Joey Brown has just proposed to him, and Jack Lemmon gets wonderfully flustered and says, "But whoa, you don't understand."
I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect.
David Lean, I think, is the only filmmaker who has ever successfully been able to combine pageantry and intimacy. Bridge on the River Kwai is one of the most perfect movies ever made.
Delvers in the ranks. You speak to me of code? What code? The coward's code.
When Alec Guinness did Bridge on the River Kwai, he proved that he could play very close to himself. Suddenly I was aware of the fact that he wasn't doing, quote, a character.
Take a good look, Clifton. One day the war will be over, and I hope that the people who use this bridge in years to come will remember how it was built and who built it. Not a gang of slaves, but soldiers, British soldiers, Clifton, even in captivity.
They're balancing 4 stories, and I'm following each one, and each one is on a collision course on that bridge, which is, my God, the name of the darn movie.
And with you, it's just one thing or the other. Destroy a bridge or destroy yourself. This is just a game, this war. You and that Colonel Nicholson, you're two of a kind. Crazy with courage. For what? How to die like a gentleman. How to die by the rules. When the only important thing is how to live like a human being.
Lady, you got the wrong man. I had some trouble with my car, a flat tire. I pulled into your garage until I could get a spare. I thought this was an empty house.
It is not. Get out.
Sunset Boulevard is about a writer coming to Hollywood and ending up dead, you know, metaphorically, in a swimming pool instead of the secretarial pool.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
I could not stop looking at Gloria Swanson's house. I just thought, I want that. I want some part of that. I'm not sure what it is, but I like that.
You know, this floor used to be wood, but I had it changed. Valentino said there's nothing like tile for a tango. Come on.
Not on the same floor with Valentino.
Just follow me.
Sunset Boulevard was one of the great, scary movies.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Her madness at the end of that film is so succinct. It's not crazy mad, you know, it's not like, oh, grab her, she's dangerous to herself. It was a very quiet, misty madness.
I suppose it'd been better if I'd never been born at all.
What'd you say?
I said I wish I'd never been born.
Oh, you mustn't say things like that. You... Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's an idea.
Thank God Capra's dead that he didn't hear me talk about the other people, right? Because what a genius Capra was.
What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea.
What holds the whole picture together is his struggle. His struggle and his genuine anger is fascinating, particularly in the scene where he's praying at the bar.
Dear Father in heaven, I'm not a praying man, but if you're up there and you can hear me, show me the way.
Who would have thunk, you know, that a guy could be shown so clearly what his effect on the world would be like?
Your brother, Harry Bailey, broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9.
That's a lie. Harry Bailey went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry.
Capra's films came out of his guts. The way he felt about America, he got it on the screen. We all felt that way about America then. I actually prefer Capra's America, even though it's gone.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right. Attaboy, Clarence.
Do it, of course we can do it. Not that a man can't do it if he believes in himself.
I want everybody to shut up about me. Just shut up about me.
I think I'm melting. This is all your fault.
Good night, honey.
Haven't they got any eyes? Have they forgotten what a star looks like?
To my big brother, George, the richest man in town.
The American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movies, brought to you by the company you can count on wherever life takes you. General Motors, People in Motion, and celebrate the century with the United States Postal Service's new stamp series.
You should be kissed and often, and by someone who knows how.
On June 26th, see one of the most beloved motion pictures as you've never seen it before.
Kiss me once.
Gone with the Wind. Now on the big screen. See it for the first time in its original Technicolor glory and with a remastered digital soundtrack. The splendor.
You get your strength in this red earth of Tara, Scarlet. You're part of it, and it's part of you.
The romance. The event.
I'm going to live through this, and when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again.
Experience Gone with the Wind, the way it was meant to be seen. Only in theaters. Rated G. Starts Friday, June 26th in selected theaters.
AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies will continue.
In the last century, 40,000 feature films were born in America. Imagine the difficulty of selecting the 100 greatest movies, let alone the top 10. But here we are. And remember, wherever your favorites rank, we're certain you'll agree that the next 10 movies represent the very best in American film.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Singing in the Rain is the kind of film that could only be written, produced, and performed in America.
Hot diggity, kids, it's a smash. Hey, Mr. Simpson?
Don, Lena, you were gorgeous.
Yeah, Lena, you look pretty good for a girl.
For heaven's sake, what's the big idea? Can't a girl get a word in edgewise?
It is so brilliantly done, and the pleasure of it gets so intense that really you become enormously moved. It was like watching Joe DiMaggio catch a fly ball.
Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh?
Donald O'Connor's dance should be put in time capsule. It's extraordinary.
And Gene's talent was in a totally different direction, but at the same time, they were both great tap dancers. We joked with Arthur Freed, the producer, about the song Singing in the Rain. And we said, Arthur, we have an absolutely great idea for how we're going to do that number. And he said, how? I said, well, in Singing in the Rain, we're going to actually sing in the rain.
Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face.
It's all enormous detail, down to where the puddles are going to be and when he splashes in them on what beat.
I didn't really breathe, I think, through the whole movie. As the movie had a stillness for me that was so intense that it seemed like there was no sound.
Name?
Like looking at an accident, really. Like it's so real, and yet you know it's a film, but you kind of get lost in it.
Paula Bitter, Nadel Rahela, Gertruda.
I think that Stephen really successfully achieved presence and depth and weight. Somehow he got his actors to die differently than they do in any other movie. A shot in the back of the head and the person became lifeless.
Shooter, here, on my authority.
And I remember distinctly many of the dead, but there was a moment when a woman was a living, breathing thing until the shot goes off, and then she's not.
It will take more than that.
I'm sure you're right.
The Jewish girl walking down the street during the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto was so conspicuous. And the red dress certainly symbolized all the bloodshed during the period. And Oskar Schindler makes his own assumptions of how many more beside me know this is happening.
My hope is that every school child in America could see Schindler's List and then go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington. It'd be a very important part of their education.
This is really cruel, Oscar. You're giving them hope. You shouldn't do that. That's cruel.
Come on. Try and reach the far end.
There are sequences that just stay with you forever. Shots that just stay with you forever.
The list is an absolute good. The list is life.
The first film that I saw where people really acted like people around me that I grew up with was On the Waterfront.
All right, Lofting, Malloy, Hendricks, Krajewski, Westerfield.
They were urban, working class, uneducated, you know, and Brando was the key.
Give it to me!
Huh?
Give me that!
What makes you so special? Oh, things are looking up in the dark.
Recognize her, Dopey? That's Joey Doyle's sister.
You give me that!
You Joey Doyle's sister?
Eva Marie Saint, by accident, dropped her glove. And Brando bent over, picked up the glove, and started putting it on. And other people behind the camera wanted to cut the scene. Oh, it's a mistake. He went on a camera. And Kazan said, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
I can get home all right now, thanks.
Hey, don't get sore. I'm just kidding you a little bit. I just mean to tell you the truth. Grew up very nice.
That performance is so deep. It's so full. It really is the personification of all these sort of terms that actors throw around all the time with subtext and all this stuff.
They're asking me to put the finger on my own brother. And Johnny Funny used to take me to ball games when I was a kid.
Ball games don't break my heart. Movie legend had us that he complained to Elia Kazan that he could not take the scene seriously. He says, he's my brother. He takes a gun out. He says, how can I believe that my own brother would shoot me? I can't play the scene. And Kazan, in his genius, said, act that. Act the disbelief. And there you now have the famous Charlie.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Instead of a bum. Which is what I am.
Oh, God. Oh, let me out.
Don't be nervous.
Get away from that door.
I want to say something first.
Dear God.
Benjamin, I want you to know that I'm available to you. And if you won't sleep with me this time...
Oh, my God.
If you won't sleep with me this time, I want you to know that you can call me up anytime you want and we'll make some kind of an arrangement.
Oh.
Do you understand what I
Let me out.
I thought it was the best, most wonderful, funniest script I had ever read because for the first time, a script was making fun of sex.
Are you here for an affair, sir?
What?
The Singleman party, sir?
Oh, yes, the Singleman party. Mrs. Robinson provided an opportunity to do the taboo thing, which is incest, without it being incest. It's not mom, but it's mom's best friend.
Do you find me undesirable?
Oh, no, Mrs. Robinson. I think you're the most attractive of all my parents' friends. I mean that. I find you desirable, but for God's sake, can you imagine my parents? Can you imagine what they would say if they just saw us here in this room right now?
What would they say?
I have no idea, Mrs. Robinson, but for God's sake.
There's something very mean and selfish about that woman. Very angry. In order to keep Elaine away from you, I am prepared to tell her everything.
He knew he was being used, and he couldn't stop from being used because at least somebody wanted him at a time when he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life.
Who's that guy? What's he doing? Take care of him.
He's too late. Maybe the young kids really do love each other, except I think that shot at the end when they're sitting in the bus, I think everything they did was out of rebellion. I honestly don't know if they love each other.
Don, you're a genius.
I'm glad you thought of it.
Better this month than last? Yes. Any reason to think next month will be worse? The walk with
You give it to Joey, you give it to Dugan, you give it to Charlie. It was one of your own.
Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Plastics.
To commemorate the first 100 years of American movie making, the American Film Institute is proud to offer a video cassette of tonight's special presentation. Call 1-800-808-7070 for details on how to order this exclusive video for just $9.95 plus shipping and handling with subscription to the video series of the 100 greatest films of all time. That's 1-800-808-7070. Call now.
My favorite film
Well, as a student filmmaker, I naturally gravitate towards the classics.
Like what?
Oh, well, there's so many. You know the one with the guy and the mother, and they're on the thing, and it's raining a lot.
Need to get reacquainted with the classics? Try this. If it's not a new release, it's a blockbuster favorite. Choose from thousands of titles and keep them for 5 evenings.
I love films with a lot of rain in them. Yeah.
You know, and then you knew, and if you had a black and white television, you never knew Oz had any color. I was an adult before I realized that there was some sort of shift. They should have gone to everybody's house and given you a color television for that night.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
I lived in the projects. I don't know what I thought would happen, but I wanted a tornado to come and take the whole project away. It never occurred to me that there was anything odd in Oz, because there were green people, so I just assumed that the black folks were there too somewhere. You know, East Oz or something.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
It's so much part of the culture, it's almost like you don't think of it as a movie. You just think of it as part of the fabric of our culture.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
If you go to a mortuary and you see in the back the two guys, the attendants, and they've got a little TV on, and if they're watching The Wizard of Oz, they're going, you know, they're just, everybody sings along with this one.
Oh, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The fantasy and the vision and the talent in that film, images that all of us can call to mind. Those flying monkeys, the witches, the yellow brick road, they're images that are indelible.
You cursed rat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting!
It didn't matter that you saw it every year. It didn't matter. There was something special. You had something different to look forward to.
Lawrence of Arabia was the film that set me on my journey, you know. Made me go and get a stick and put a duffel on the end of the stick with a bunch of, you know, toothpaste and toothbrush and set off for Hollywood.
Then when you're ready to go, hit her on the shoulder and say, hut, hut, hut. Hut, hut, hut.
Little things like the camels at a wide shot leaving virgin tracks and wondering where was take two. And if that was take five, how many days ago was take one?
What about Omar Sharif's entrance as a mirage in the desert, in black, on a camel, just sort of coming out of the heat waves?
Who is he?
It's not only a great story and beautifully filmed with great scope, but it is filled with the kind of poetic metaphor that you read. So there are very few films that can do that.
You will cross Sinai?
Why not? Moses did.
And you will take the children? Moses did? Moses was a prophet and beloved of God.
That is just as good as you get as screenwriting. I mean, 3 words, you know, tells you everything.
What is it, Major Lawrence, that attracts you personally to the desert?
It's clean.
I refuse to see Lawrence of Arabia on a home screen. The home screen is just not big enough to contain that film.
War, war, war. This war talk's spoiling all the fun at every party this spring. I get so bored I could scream.
Gone with the Wind is a perfect triangle where she thinks she loves one, but it turns out that she really loved the other.
Sir, you are no gentleman.
And you, miss, are no lady.
Oh.
Don't think that I hold that against you. Ladies have never held any charm for me.
First you take a low, common advantage of me, then you insult me.
I meant it as a compliment. And I hope to see more of you when you're free of the spell of the elegant Mr. Wilkes.
You saw that magic of old Hollywood, and there's something that just unlocks that fantasy part of your brain when you see those images in that film.
We'll have to make a dash for it before the fire reaches that ammunition.
Yeah, I became a Civil War buff from that film, and it also gave me my real strong appreciation for the land. When Scarlett's father says to Scarlett, says, "You're going to get Tara," and that land's the only thing that matters because it's the only thing that lasts. That had a lasting impression on me.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Vivian Leigh with such a quivering intelligence and sensitivity and sexuality.
I'll go home. But I'll think of some way to get him back. After all, tomorrow is another day.
Dorothy, the wicked witch is dead. Hail, Dorothy!
So long will they be a little people, a silly people.
This is an honorable proposal of marriage, made at what I consider a most opportune moment.
The American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Movies, brought to you by the all-new Cadillac Seville STS. It's not just new, it's what's next. And Blockbuster Video. Get your movie and go home happy.
And then there were three. Three stunning movies remaining in our distinguished list of 100. Each is a landmark, a monumental creative achievement of originality that reaches deep into our souls and touches our hearts. And each asks us to consider the foundation of family, the strength of individuality, and the power of loyalty and friendship.
Good. Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me. But until that day, accept this justice as a gift on my daughter's wedding day.
Is it possible to give a movie a 10? Godfather's a 10. They're a classic saga of great writing, great acting, incredible lighting. Every performance is perfect.
It's just unbelievable the way people talk about it and the way people remember every little thing and can recite the dialogue.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I don't think that there's an unreal false moment in the whole thing.
Never tell anybody outside the family what you're thinking again.
I know that we're not supposed to like them, but I did like them, and I liked that people were able to take matters into their own hands.
What do you think, this is the Army where you shoot them a mile away? You gotta get them close like this, and bada bing, you blow their brains all over your nice Ivy League suit. Come here. Mwah! You're taking us very personal.
We never look at those people as bad people. In their world, they're the good people. So we embrace that, and we embrace their values and how they take care of each other.
I'm with you now. I'm with you.
And it had a complexity of character. It had a wonderful story. It had resonance, truth, you know, about the family and what the unit of the family means.
I never wanted this for you. I worked my whole life. I don't apologize to take care of my family. And I refused to be a fool. Dancing on the string held by all those big shots.
What Francis Ford Coppola portrayed on the operatic side, the scope of that emotional experience and the visual was something I'll never forget.
Don Corleone.
What in heaven's name brought you to Casablanca?
My health. I came to Casablanca for the waters.
The waters? What waters? We're in the desert.
I was misinformed.
My mother and father stood in line to see Casablanca when it first came out. And it changed them. And in so doing, it changed me.
Rick, help me.
To be a fool, you can't get away.
Rick, hide me. Do something. You must help me, Rick. Do something.
It gave them a worldview
the likes of which they had never had. And that they understood what World War II was about, what the stakes were.
I once met Ingrid Bergman, and I asked her, when you're doing a great film like Casablanca, did you know while you were shooting it? She said, oh, my dear, it was a disaster. They were changing the script every day, and I ran up to Michael Curtiz, and I said, please, please, you've got to tell me, who do I love, Humphrey Bogart or Paul Henry? And he said, we haven't decided yet, play it cool.
Victor, whatever I do, will you believe that I...
You don't even have to say it. I'll believe.
Michael Curtiz never wasted a shot. He got out when the scene was over, and he came in just when the scene was getting interesting.
If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris.
There is something going on between Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, which has such authenticity that you never tire of watching it.
Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. Now. He's looking at you, kid.
If I had to pick one movie as my all-time favorite, I couldn't do it if I just had to pick one.
I still love slasher movies.
The Informer.
Pride and Prejudice.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Braveheart I've seen now 17 times.
I have about 6,000, literally, favorite movies.
Citizen Kane, Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind.
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane is the greatest movie ever made.
Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane.
That's the absolute summit, Citizen Kane. That's the Mount Everest of filmmaking, and I don't think anything is on that level.
Rosebud. I'm not going to end up like Citizen Kane did. I'm going to be nice to everybody, and I'm going to be philanthropic, and I'm just going to be loyal to my friends, because when I get old, I want my friends to be loyal to me.
People will think
What I tell them to think. You think you know it, but you always find out new stuff. For example, showing the ceiling because he lit behind it, and deep focus. You could show more in depth. Plus, the original title was The American, and it is a classic American story.
We have no secrets from our readers, Mr. Bernstein. Mr. Thatcher is one of our most devoted readers. He knows what's wrong with every copy of the Enquirer since I took over.
The reason that Orson Welles said, gee, act better in black and white was because the news was in black and white, and movies were in color. So what was real was in black and white.
I made no campaign promises, because until a few weeks ago, I had no hope of being elected. Now, however, I have something more than a hope.
He's full of surprises and full of treats. Behind every turn and every door, there's a new treat and a new invention and a new idea. And it's just an exhilarating movie.
if you could have found out what that rosebud meant, I bet that would have explained everything.
No, I don't think so.
The enigma of it is Kane himself. You don't know him. You can't get to know him.
It is just one of the great movies ever made, and I think many people are going to agree. It's just one of the great American experiences in the cinema.
Tonight we've taken a wonderful journey inside ourselves as we've identified with the people, stories, and dreams created by others. We've come to understand the spirit of our nation, the essence of our freedom, and the diversity of us as a people. It's been a great personal pleasure to have been part of this wonderful celebration. The 100 greatest American movies of all time. What a collection. Good night.
first quintuplets when the government took them away.
This isn't right, you know it!
And exploited them for millions.
I made the decision, Sid.
Now see their shocking true story.
You just keep those quints alive.
$1 Million Babies, CBS Sunday.
Late Night's happiest hour is straight ahead with Dave, David Duchovny, Stevie Nicks, and a whole lot more. But first, your local news.
Hello, West Michigan. I'm Jamie Boll. Next on News 3, can they do it again? Can the Red Wings bring home the cup? West Michigan fans are hoping so. We'll have a live report. And it was a first. This woman gives birth live on the internet. Some are wondering why it was done at all. Plus, Keith Thompson has weather first. News 3 at 11 is next.